Because The Legend of Aang is releasing this year, Season 2 of The Last Airbender live action, and once again seeing a lot of Korra discourse lately, I decided to rewatch Korra to give her a fair shot. We all know that Korra is one of the most hated characters in cartoon history, but did she deserve all the hate that she got? And I'm not pointing fingers, because I know I jumped on the Korra hate train too. Not to the same extremes as other people, but my dislike for her was definitely known. So I thought, now that I'm older and know when to put my biases aside for the most part, that I'd rewatch and reevaluate Korra, both the character and the show. It's been a decade since I watched Korra anyway, so most of my memories are blank, so I might as well be going into this blind. Most of my negative feelings come from I wanted more of Team Aang and didn't want to move away from them yet. So as a kid, I already had a soured opinion of the show and didn't give it a fair shake. But now that I'm older, I want to give it a fair shake. So here's part 1 of my Korra rewatch.
I'm the Avatar! You gotta deal with it!
And off the bat, I remember why I have a sour opinion of Korra. That "deal with it" comment always gets me to this day. And she's already starting out being able to bend 3 out of 4 elements off the bat, even if they are basic. And I know the argument of Korra was just a prodigy exists, and prodigies do exist in Avatar. After all of Team Aang, except for Zuko, who was in his honor phase constantly training, was a prodigy. And what gets me is the age. If she was doing this at the same age as Aang or Toph, I'd have no complaints about it, minus the deal with it line. Korra being impatient and brash in episode 1 is fine. I'm sure most people who would have superpowers would rush to have their training complete. Seeing it again, I realized that Aang could have turned out like Korra if he didn't run away. Except for Gyatso, who saw the issue with it, they were gonna isolate Aang so he could only focus on training. And I can't really get mad at her causing property damage. It isn't anything Team Avatar hasn't done. I don't understand why air is hard for Korra to master. Water and air flow similarly, so theoretically they should follow a similar spiritual philosophy. I was never the biggest fan of Bolin, but god, I forgot how cringy he was in Season 1. And now I remember why they call Mako Zuko 2.0. Honestly, I relate to the practical training frustration. Some people like myself learn slower with that kind of stuff, and while I wouldn't destroy stuff, my temper would definitely escalate. You'd think when they started pro-bending that they would account for an Avatar showing up eventually. Korra crashing out on the relic wasn't needed, and she was in the wrong for that, but she does admit that, shows remorse and dedication to Tenzin for training after that. Today I got asked, what do I think is the worst beatdown in all of fiction? There's a lot to choose from, but you can't go wrong with the classic David and Goliath type of matchup, so it's gotta be Bell versus Otar from Danmachi for me. Seriously, before the war game even started, the plan was to avoid this man at all costs, and even if Bell did run into him, the plan was to take him out with a fully charged shot, which he had been charging up since the beginning of the battle, and Otar found him almost immediately, but he was feeling a little generous, so like Jiren did with Goku, he let him finish charging up his attack. The two clashed and they were evenly matched, and Otar even gave Bell props for it. Then he proceeded to drag this man across the battlefield, both figuratively and literally. It didn't matter where he threw Bell, Otar was always rushing him down to extend the combo. He even hit him with the Broly special. Do you know how bad a beating has to be to beg for mercy while getting choked out? In the light novel, it said that he knocked out Bell for a second, and the only reason he didn't get KO'd was because the pain was so bad he couldn't black out, and it happened multiple times in the fight. The only reason why he lost was because Bell decided to do the sensible thing and jump Otar after his allies came to save him first. And Otar was a level 7 to 8 doing this. I know the number doesn't seem high, but in Danmachi, multiply a level by 10 and that roughly equates to how strong they are in video game terms. And this man got jumped by 3 level 6s and they barely won. This man Otar was a demon in this battle. But what do y'all think? What's the worst beatdown in fiction? You know, as I grow older, I'm starting to realize that a lot of Last Airbender fans don't understand the show 80% of the time. Because how do you misinterpret Hama and Jet's episodes? I keep seeing people say that they villainized Hama and Jet because they were fighting the Fire Nation, and that you shouldn't fight your oppressors being the message of those episodes. But that isn't the reason why they were villainized. If that was the case, then the Kyoshi Warriors should have also been antagonists by that dumb logic. Remember the episode in prison where Team Avatar helps Haru to save his dad and other earthbenders off a prison ship, and in said episode the team encourages them to fight for their freedom and they are later there to fight on the Day of Black Sun? Jet's parents were killed by Fire Nation soldiers and rallied a group together to fight against them. That isn't where the episode villainizes him though. It's where he tries to flood a town where regular citizens live. Not a military base, a regular village. Hama is the same. She was in prison and had to develop bloodbending in order to escape. And this is the same season where Zuko and Sokka break out of a prison, so it isn't that part where the episode treats her like she's wrong. Like Jet, she also targets regular civilians and controls them so that way they can be in prison like she did. But these were not soldiers or anything military related, just regular civilians. Season 3 shows that civilians in the Fire Nation are mostly normal, and a quick reminder that Katara had her own vigilante episode as the Painted Lady to help a poor Fire Nation village, and her mother was killed by Fire Nation soldiers and she still helped Fire Nation civilians. And before you bring up her being harsh on Zuko, he spent most of the year fighting them and trying to capture Aang, and when he seemed like he could change in the Earth Kingdom, he decided to side with Azula, which became part of the reason why Aang died. That's a valid reason not to be the nicest person in the world to someone. The show makes it clear that they are not wrong for attacking Fire Nation soldiers, but going after innocent civilians is just mindless violence, using their experiences as an excuse. But let me know what y'all think. The newest JJK episode dropped the other day, and I just had to talk about it. So Higuruma's domain expansion is essentially Ace Attorney mixed with a little bit of Danganronpa. So his domain can generate evidence that may or may not prove that you're guilty of the crime in question. In this case, it was a picture from a CCTV. My question is, does Judgment also hack into technology that the target has been around? Or does he use the memories of the target and generates random evidence based off whatever the target's surroundings were in that memory to make it seem more professional for a trial? Or did I just get that wrong? So he can just boogie-woogie his gavel to his hand and make it stretch like how Mahito does with his body, and he mastered his domain expansion in less than 2 weeks. Are you serious? Figuring out curse techniques is one thing. He's a genius, and like Gojo said, Jujutsu sorcery is mostly built off of innate talent. That's cool and all, but which part of his backstory gave Higuruma hands like this? Itadori is an experienced hand-to-hand fighter, and Higuruma is sticking with him easily. This man is passing his gavel to his other hand mid-block and has the nerve to fix his tie while this gavel is being thrown back at him, just to boogie-woogie it to his hand and throw it back at again. I swear Mappa is just clip farming with JJK at this point, and I love it. There's so much meme potential this season, it's not even funny. Seriously, how is he moving like this? He was a lawyer not named Matt Murdock. When did he learn to squabble like this? So if his domain works like a courtroom, I wonder what would happen if I called for a recess. Would it just work like a timeout? I'm glad that the evidence would have shown that Itadori would be innocent, and Higuruma acknowledges that. He's just a man that hated the way the justice system worked. Death Battle Cell vs Metal Sonic release, so here are my thoughts. So this battle's a bit like Simone vs Kylo Rayner. Initially Cell takes overall stats even if Metal goes into Neo form, but the latter has a way to grow and evolve during the battle. Considering Cell is a one-arc villain, you can tell the crew did the most with their research to give him and explain his entire arsenal, and even clear up the solar system comment. On the other hand, most of the feats they gave him were anime filler. It'd be like if I said Yamcha and Tien were just under Super Saiyan level just because they were hanging with the Cell Juniors for a bit. I just wish the games could give us Sonic Heroes Metal again, or just have him be relevant. He's arguably the most iconic Sonic villain after Eggman, and especially after everything that has happened in IDW comics and what we've seen in Super Sonic fights in Sonic Frontiers, modern day Sega could make one of the best Sonic games in recent years. It makes sense that Cell would eventually get overwhelmed. He can only do what he has programmed in him, meanwhile Metal can just add Cell's moveset to his own. I was hoping Metal would make his own version of the Juniors in this battle after copying Cell, and after this battle I can already hear the Sonic vs Goku arguments starting up again. It sucks that this is gonna be Devil Artemis's last episode on the show. I know he's animated episodes with highly disagreeable outcomes, but that is no good reason to harass him off of working with Death Battle. His last episode went out with a bang, or rather, it was perfect. No way they're doing Bakugo vs Reze. This is gonna be awesome. Please tell me Moro is working on this episode. What's up, y'all? I got a question for you. What's your favorite anime trope? For me, one that I'm always gonna love seeing is the inner demon / spirit trope. Of course, no one can forget Kurama, the OG and most iconic character of this trope. An antagonistic force in the beginning, but after building a strong bond over time, chooses to stay with Naruto, and later on in Boruto even trusts his kids to him. Also, not to mention giving some of the cleanest transformations in anime history. And we're starting to get polar opposites like Sukuna, who just stays hating on Itadori. Do you know how petty you have to be to eat food that you specifically hate just to switch and make the other person throw it up later? And also like other takes of this trope that deal with personal inner demons instead of actual spirit demons, like the Beast of Darkness from Berserk, which is the form of Guts' trauma and vengeance that tries to take over every time he wears the Berserker armor. And we have something similar with Fu from Gachi Okuda. Spoilers from the manga cause this covers the next arc, but when he switches personalities with his doll He, or Hai, I don't know how it's pronounced, he goes in beast mode and easily no diffs jabber. But what I want and need to see more of is multiple demons or spirits and within one person, like the dragons in Flame of Rekka, or the One For All vestiges that Deku has. It gives more room for entertaining banner that I love to see. We're even starting to see this more with a new manga like Ichi the Witch. Speaking of which, Discarus is the GOAT. I love the inner demon trope, but let me know, what's your favorite anime trope? What's up, y'all? With Season 7 of Marvel Rivals coming out next week, I gotta say one thing about the player base. They need to chill on who is and who is not an obscure character. The two new characters that are confirmed are Black Cat and White Fox, but I see people calling Black Cat an obscure Marvel character. Seriously, what are we doing? I'm sure most players only watch the MCU, and to that I gotta say this. You do know the MCU has made lesser known characters the popular ones they are today, right? Has Black Cat been in a movie? No. Has she had multiple appearances outside the comics? Absolutely. We're talking about a character that is constantly brought up with Spider-Man. You know, one of the 4 heroes on the Mount Rushmore of heroes? She appears in almost every Spider-Man cartoon, except for Ultimate. Not to mention 90% of Spider-Man games or any Marvel game. Why Fox being called obscure, that's an entirely another thing. I didn't even know she existed before Marvel Rivals. A brief summary from what I found, White Fox is a Kumio, which in Korean mythology is a 9-tailed fox. And after fighting a demon dog that killed her mother, goes on to work for an intelligence agency that works with superheroes. She's definitely obscure and not a new hero like Luna Snow or Jeff the Land Shark. She came out in 2014, and one of the last major appearances was in the Agents of Atlas and Death of Doctor Strange series. And even then, there's something wrong with making more obscure characters more known by giving them more appearances in movies and games. The MCU made Iron Man popular, and people call him a B or C lister before his movie came out. Learning about lesser known characters isn't a bad thing and a pointless complaint, especially in Marvel Rivals, where they will release one popular character along with a lesser known one. That's what happened with Deadpool and Elsa Bloodstone, and Angela and Daredevil. But those are my thoughts. Let me know what y'all think. Is Black Cat obscure? What's up, y'all? The other day I saw a post asking, who do I think is the better Hazbin Hotel villain, Vox or Adam? It's gotta be Vox for me easily, because I just find him more entertaining to watch as a whole than Adam, and I felt like there was more substance with Vox in Season 2 than Adam in Season 1. I personally love characters that hold petty grudges, so expanding on Vox's beef with Alistair in Season 2 was perfect. Their back and forth carried the comedy for the season as well. Of course you could see how it was gonna end, but seeing someone rage bait another is always gonna be hilarious to me. So the payoff, as predictable as it is, was still worth it. And Vox had more characters he interacted with compared to Adam, who really only talks to Lute and maybe sometimes Sarah. Meanwhile, Vox had the V's, Alistair, and even some members of the Hazbin staff, so I had more stuff to look forward to when it was his turn to be on screen. And we can't forget about music. None of Adam's songs were bad, but Vox has both quantity and quality. We got brighter once we get up there, and stayed gun. Adam is just okay looking back at Season 1. He had a few moments that were funny, and Hell is Forever is still the best song in that season, next to Loser Baby. But there wasn't enough to make me feel attached to him and say that he was a good villain. Like Megamind said, the best thing for a villain is presentation, and Vox had that in spades, which makes him a better and more entertaining villain compared to Adam. But those are just my thoughts. Who do you think is the better Hazbin Hotel villain? What's up, y'all? I know it's been a while since I did this, but here's part 2 of my Korra rewatch. If the Fire Ferrets were already pretty popular and essentially rookies of the year, you'd think that they would have had a sponsor already. 2 things I want to say about this Chi Blocker fight. 1. Why wouldn't the Order teach Korra how to defend against this technique? Or better yet, why didn't Katara mention this to Korra herself? Because she didn't even know Chi blocking existed. 2. I like that the martial arts are shown more in the fights and bending, and it feels more like an extension of the body, especially with the amazing animation. It feels more like a scrap is what I'm saying. You'd think that part of Korra's avatar training would include peacemaking. Even if Korra has trouble connecting spiritually, it wouldn't have killed the Order or her to learn how to keep calm. Wait, Steve Blum plays Amon? I should have started rewatching Korra sooner if I knew he was in this. Amon is definitely a new avatar's worst nightmare, and Korra is completely valid for most of the stuff she does this episode. As the avatar, bending is pretty much her whole life, and one of the few things she actually does connect with. I'm kinda curious, minus Akara not being there, was this scene a fully Cully reference? And thus starts the problematic love life of Mako. Seriously dude, how did you fumble Asami, man? It's gonna be a pain watching this train wreck. Again, I don't remember most of what happened in Korra, but I feel like Tarlok is gonna be a villain later on, isn't he? I'm calling it now. I have mixed feelings about how Korra tried to deal with Amon, because on one hand, it would be better to just cut off the head of the snake immediately, but on the other hand, he already has a small army of Chi blockers. You wouldn't think that he wouldn't know some of those techniques too, and you just imprisoned some of their members. You don't think they take the opportunity to jump the Avatar, especially when she just declared that she'd come alone? I know I'm glazing, but seriously, Steve Blum kills every line as a mom. What's up, y'all? Invincible Season 4 released today, so here are my thoughts on Episode 1. Wait, so Business Baby survived the war? I thought he got crushed while fighting one of the Mark variants. How strong and durable is he? I know why everyone's looking at Mark like this, but I wonder if the GDA put out anything to take some of the heat off the main Invincible. I understand why Mark is trying so hard, but at the same time, does he really need Oliver? I don't remember Furnace being that tough. Hell, the Guardians even took him out in Season 1. I think Dinosaurus' design looks okay. It's an obvious downgrade to his comic appearance, but it isn't terrible. I do wish his teeth were more like the comic versions though. Okay, so those are just like metal casts. I was confused why he never took them off. I thought I missed something and he lost his arm and legs against Conquest. And seriously, do heroes in this universe ever consider damage control when they fight, or is that just a Mark thing? Oh god, I was not prepared for this scene to get animated. And Eve's dad always pisses me off. Please get him off my screen, that smirk is pissing me off. Oh thank god they removed that one scene and replaced it with something else. I'm just saying, in a world like Invincible, it should be normal for any hero to be employed at any job where it requires its employees to go underground. I'd be quitting if I had to go into the sewers when there's stuff like Doc Seismic's creatures that dwelled beneath the surface. I was curious on this one. So Cecil said in the season 3 teaser that a teleport costs about the same as the economic output in Liechtenstein. And looking it up, that output is $9.42 billion. So only counting on-screen civilian teleports, that came out to be about $160 billion. And that's in total for every civilian saved in this scene alone. I really hope Paul doesn't get hoed. He's a good guy. Why didn't Mark just try pulling the Sequid off? Either way, it'd kill off the Hive connection. And I'm pretty sure everyone knew where keeping Conquest alive was gonna go. So Cecil is ready to put a speaker in Mark's ear with the anti-Viltrumite frequency, but doesn't think to do the same for Conquest or create any contingency whatsoever. Are we serious? What's up, y'all? Here's part 3 of my Korra rewatch. Oh gosh, this faux love triangle bit is giving me secondhand embarrassment. Please tell me that was the point. And seriously, Mako, how did you fumble this? I don't know if this is a hot take or not, but Pema's advice is honestly terrible, and it feels like a way to kick off drama for no reason. Alright, Naga is now up there with Appa and Momo for animals in Avatar. Okay, I remember this scene, and all I gotta say is, why would you say this, Korra? He may not be a prodigy like the others shown in Avatar, but Bolin is definitely above average bender. I love it when goofy characters get serious in a fight. I've seen discourse on this specific moment, and 2 things. 1, I genuinely don't think Korra led Bolin on. They were just having fun, and it was just Bolin that had a one-sided crush. And 2, she was wrong for initiating it, but Mako could've and should've leaned out of that kiss. Is this the regular show equivalent of chicken wings getting people drunk, only it's noodles instead? What has Mako done for the team in this tournament so far? Korra's clutched a 3v1 twice now, and Bolin won the last match in overtime. What does he do besides fill a body that they need for the team? Has he scored any points? Hey, she wasn't in the beginning, but Korra's moving like an airbender now. For a guy who is big about showing the city's dominance against Amon, Tarlok is backing down real quick, and it's odd to say the least. I'm calling it now, he's a part of this somehow. So if they have Sokka-inspired anti-chi blocking armor, why wouldn't they give the Avatar the same armor, especially after she just got jumped? I want to correct myself about saying Pema's advice was terrible. It was just make your feelings known to the other person and then let that person decide. It wasn't home-wrecking like I originally thought. How'd I forget Tenzin and Lin were bitter exes? Now I gotta know how Aang and Toph reacted when their kids got together and then broke up. I love Tenzin acting like a proud dad at his daughter's game. He even brushed up on the rules. Man, pro bending rules are BS and limit what benders can actually do. If it was me, I'd get rid of the zone rules and just let the teams go at it. And I gotta say, I love this announcer. So what I'm getting from this is that Amon is basically Syndrome from The Incredibles. I love Lin's Spider-Man based fighting style that she does with the wires, and for as much shit as Korra gets for losing against everyone, she doesn't lose to the same person twice. She folded these chi blockers. What's up, y'all? Here's my thoughts on Invincible Season 4, Episode 2. Now we see what Nolan meant by true Viltrumite education. His lessons were literally beat into him. Okay, so Viltrumites have the same concept as birthday licks. Just imagine jumping your own kid on their birthday. Like mother, like son, it seems. It really shows how big of an influence Debbie had on Nolan. The Viltrumites don't have any kind of love for their own at all besides strength. Just imagine if Nolan took Mark back after he awakened his powers. So that's how Conquest lost his arm and eye. Wow, this is definitely the most haunting scene in Invincible. Your own planet's ring being made out of dead bodies is insane. I'm with Alan on this one. I'd be conflicted after hearing all that too. So the Empire's plan was just egos in Guardians of the Galaxy 2. That further explains Liu Kang's reaction to Oliver in Season 2. Why didn't they just give Nolan a fake beard like Thaddeus did? I'm kinda curious, do these people think only Viltrumites can grow mustaches? Why would the Coalition have a Starship Enterprise crew? They already go where no man has gone before. Was someone in the Coalition a Star Trek fan? And hello, Tuva. I was dying watching this scene. Alan and Nolan is the best duo in this show. So Alan's not into sci-fi? What is sci-fi to an alien? Would it be a story about humans? Even though their main focus wasn't a fight, it's still crazy to me that Space Racer could draw blood from Nolan without using his gun. Nah, Space Racer is cool as hell. I need a series about just him. It's crazy that just a Viltrumite doing the bare minimum and apologizing is so unfathomable that it could be enough to convince someone that Nolan is on their side. You can't convince me that Alan didn't get louder each time after hearing something something terrible that Nolan did during this recruitment tour. And the Galdarian Korra is here. Tech Jacket is one of my favorite heroes in the Invincible verse, and I know there's backlash over changing the gender, but as long as she is as badass as Tech Jacket is in his comics, I don't care. And considering she soloed a Mark variant, I'm not too worried about her treatment. Wait, how strong is the sun affected by this planet? It gets thawed and frozen within seconds. I don't think any race should be extinct, but Alan has a point. The Empire turned their entitlement up to the maximum. Still, why not just augment the virus to completely depower Viltrumites to around human level strength? I don't blame Thetis for creating the virus though. It takes at most 3 Viltrumites to conquer it. What's up y'all? I got a question for you. What is a character you'll defend no matter how much hate or slander they get? That's gotta be Skylar White for me, hands down. I don't know how she got so much hate when she isn't even evil, but I see her up next to Joffrey of all people for one of the most hated characters in TV history. She's out of the loop for the drug business for the first 2 seasons and is there for Walt and does all she can emotionally after he gets diagnosed with lung cancer. After she gets fed up with Walt disappearing and lying about what he's been doing, she tries to divorce him amicably, even staying civil after finding out he was a drug dealer. She even tries to make sure that Flynn and eventually Holly won't hate their father after the divorce, and just tries to keep them out of harm's way. And before you bring up the cheating, I don't condone infidelity, but at that point she tried multiple times to get Walt to sign the divorce papers, but his ego wouldn't let him go through with it, which kept her essentially trapped in the marriage. When she turned on him in season 5 after laundering his money for the past 2 seasons, it's only after she learned that Walt was involved with Hank's death. In a show where the main character poisons a child and continued to hire a literal sociopath and child murderer, you wouldn't guess that the one who's trapped in the middle of this situation would be the most hated. Skylar White deserved better, but those are my thoughts. What do you think? I swear there needs to be another game like Tron Evolution. It was a movie tie-in game done right. It was simple but tons of fun. The game released around the same time as Tron Legacy, which is visually one of my favorite movies of all time. The game actually takes place during the movie, and I played the Xbox 360 and PlayStation 3 version. The story and combat mechanics were okay, but the online modes were always lit as hell. The game modes would be either one of 2 things: a deathmatch inside where you'd use parkour to move around, or you take it outside in the arena and fight it out on light cycles. And you could choose if it was a team match or a battle royale, and I can't tell you the amount of times I'd crash out over getting cut off during those light cycle matches. I need another Tron game just with more customization options this time. Literally anything from able to change my suit or a different helmet. The other game I wanted to talk about was Anarchy Reigns / Max Anarchy, the arena fighter that came out way before its time. In my opinion, it was one of Platinum Star Studios' best beat-em-ups of all time, and one of my favorite online games. It was nothing but pure chaos and, well, anarchy. The team battle aspect is something I miss in fighting games now. It's kinda why I like Shinobi Striker, but unlike Shinobi Striker, the matches in this game were long and kept you on your toes the entire time when it came to fights. Like with action trigger events, which essentially force you to stop fighting and get to moving from wherever the group fight was. Like let's say it's a 2v2 in one area and suddenly a black hole appears. It'll teleport you to a random area since the maps were actually big. And even if you didn't know how to put your enemies in a combo, you could still mess them up with any items that spawned around or just pick up a random object like a street sign. We really need to bring this game back from the dead. Please, Platinum. And I almost forgot to mention this game's banger of a soundtrack. There was not one miss, and all the artists that they got for this were absolutely cooking. So those were some of my favorite underrated games. What are some of yours? What's up y'all? Here are my thoughts on Invincible Season 4, Episode 3. It's always a joy to see Machine Head. It's practically mandatory at this point that he be included in every season. I don't get why Titan wouldn't just take the deal and join the Order. They already outrank him in power and authority. Why not just join and make sure Chicago is untouched? I'm sorry, what is Cecil's argument here? His examples include people that not just tried to kill Mark, but the entire world too. He even agrees that he would have done it himself. And regarding Mark killing Russ, I think there was a different solution, but ultimately he did the right thing. Bulletproof wasn't getting to him fast enough, and the shield was at 4% and decreasing fast. He had to do something. I just don't get why Mark didn't try pulling the Sequid off of his head. Thank you, Britt, for putting Rudy in his place. I refuse to call this bodyjacker Rex. How did that Sequid even fit inside Rudy without him noticing? Even if you already have powers, you'd think a crime boss would hire some security that also has powers. Even Liu hired a tank of a bodyguard to protect him. Oh cool, a guy with Magneto's powers and Bullseye's aim. Another reason to keep me out of the Invincible universe. At least the two are talking calmly now, so it seems like Cecil has learned to have some faith in Mark, and props to Mark for not immediately jumping to choking him out. Is there a use for Sinclair? Yes, and I'd employ him too to create more Reanimen. The difference is, I'm not giving him a check. He's gonna be living in an imprisoned Tony Stark situation. I don't know why Cecil won't just send some GDA therapist for Mark. He immediately sent childcare for Oliver. Also, are there other people working for Invincible Inc? Because who is Capes? Did Mark not tell Oliver about Titan? It feels like something he should have mentioned. And here's reason number 538 not to live in the Invincible universe. Random Flaxen invasions. I swear Shapesmith needs more haters. Red is already becoming one of my favorites. Just how durable is he? Come on, Mark, they aren't making you bleed, so you can't be getting whooped by these robots. Oh, I forgot this storyline was up next. I'm not prepared for these next batch of episodes this season. And never mind, these are actually on Viltrumite level? I wonder how they would have done against Omni-Man. I love seeing Mark and Oliver team up. If there's one thing Viltrumites excel at, it's jumping. I like this anti-killing development for Oliver. I'd be on Titan's ass too if I was Mark. This is the third time he's caught him up in his crime boss situations. The first time, I'd let it slide. The last 2 times, nah, I would have put belt to ass sooner. What's up, y'all? Chainsaw Man's final chapter released today, and it has me feeling conflicted. Obviously, heavy spoilers for the manga. So last chapter, Pochita ate his own heart, and that caused the entire timeline to reset. But instead of it being a time loop like Devilman Crybaby, it instead turned out to be more like a flashpoint. Every character that died or was still presumably alive got reincarnated in this new timeline, where some of them took new positions. This time around, instead of fusing with Pochita, Denji gets saved by a wild power, and Nayuta is now the director of Devil Hunter Division 4 instead of Makima. Denji saves Asa from falling on the chicken devil, and then the chapter ends with Denji and Power walking off to go get something to eat. It feels like I missed 10 chapters, or rather, this final one feels like it could have been those 10 chapters. I genuinely don't know how to feel about this ending. On one hand, I'm glad it wasn't a depressing ending like I was theorizing, and Denji gets his best friend back, and it isn't as depressed. I think, again, the ending leaves a lot more questions than answers. On the other, this feels like whiplash because for the last 20 or so chapters, it was a conflict against Yoru, then at last second the insect devils come, Pochita eats his heart, and now we appear here. So here are just some of my questions. Where's Aki? Is the gun devil still around? Is Nayuta the same kind of director as Makima? What happened to Rose? And the most important one, did Kobeni get a better life? I got more, but pretty much all my questions have the same theme. What exactly changed? There's a big cast of characters, so I just want to know what hand everyone got dealt this time. I don't need a part 3, but what I do need is an epilogue chapter, or just a bunch of one-shots confirming where everyone is, and that'll be all I need for this to feel complete. Right now, this ending is getting a 6 out of 10 for me. I still give the series an 8 out of 10. I'm not mad at the ending, just very conflicted. Right now, I think I just need a break from reading Fujimoto, and at the same time, already excited for his next work. But what do you think? What's up, y'all? It has been confirmed that Fox McCloud from Star Fox is confirmed to be in the Super Mario Galaxy movie, so we might be getting the Smash Bros. Cinematic universe. One thing real quick, I hate that they announced it. I would have been so much more hyped to see Fox while I'm actually watching the movie in theaters without already knowing that he's in it. I'm hoping that this is building to a Super Smash Bros. Movie of some kind. You can't tell me that wouldn't be hype. The Subspace Emissary and Brawl was already peak. A movie following something similar would be pure cinema. There definitely needs to be other Nintendo titles to get movies first, so as far as characters that I'd want to get movies next, I have 3, excluding Kirby because obviously he'd be the most likely to get the next one. Captain Falcon because Nintendo for some reason has beef with F-Zero and has been hoeing it for years. The only time the franchise gets shown during directs is when Nintendo is about to drop another collection for it. You can't tell me that hearing a Falcon Punch won't get the entire theater jumping. Hopefully not in a Minecraft movie kind of way, but you get the point. The second one is Samus. I just want literally anything where she has a vocal speaking role. The only other times that was in Metroid Dread and Other M, and no one talks about that game. And with Fox being introduced in the Galaxy movie, who knows if they become a duo or something like that. The last one is Pit for sure. The 2013 game is still one of the best Nintendo games to date. And since Pit and pretty much everyone in that game breaks the fourth wall, his movie might be one of the closest thing to a kid-friendly Deadpool movie. Rob is already confirmed in the movie, and Sonic's 4th is on the way. It seems like the Brawl setup is starting to come together. Seriously, a build-up to the Super Smash Bros. Might be one of the best game movies released to date. But those are just my thoughts. What's up, y'all? I want to know something. Why are action anime fans so quick to dismiss anything that isn't mostly to non-stop action? I was watching an RDC stream, and Mark was talking about JJK hate, and I do agree. The hate for JJK and Soul Leveling was insane when they both got popular, further episodes being primarily action. His main point was that the show translates to sorcerer battle, so you can't really get mad when it contains, well, you know, sorcerers battling it out, which is completely fair because JJK excels at fight scenes, and it's clearly advertised in the title. The part that made me pause, and reason why I made this, was this part.
Y'all, it's not trick. I think Jujutsu Kaisen stands for sorcerer's boxing. Nigga, they stood on their shit. Sorcerers is boxing. You can't get mad at that. That's like being mad at I don't know what one of them shows my sister turned into if she turned into whatever she turned into, you can't heat up. They already told you in the title what they turning into. They not boxing. But I ain't gonna go over there and judge that show. You come over here mad at shonen because shonen popular and mad because this show not popular.
Because I know some people are going to take this the wrong way, no, I don't think Mark is like this with every non-action anime or, niche anime in general. So the rest of this is addressing a problem I have with the anime community as a whole, and not specifically just him. It made me think about how most of the anime community treats people who watch and recommend non-action to niche anime to other people. Do people generally think that non-action and niche anime is nothing but creep shit? It's always the default response. Whenever you recommend someone lesser known stuff, it'll always be something like, oh, you want us to watch I Got Reincarnated as My Sisters, then insert any creepy object or the worst kind of action you can think of. Seriously, this is the same kind of bullying anime fans used to get before it became mainstream, only this time it got shifted to the fans of less popular anime instead of just people who are just fans of anime. And I'm not saying that an action-filled anime can't be your favorite, or that you're less for it being your favorite. They're fun to watch, and a lot of our first anime was this kind of type. Heck, I like Solo Leveling and JJK when they were airing. But just offer non-action anime fans that same courtesy and stop speaking down on that genre. I like to compare action/shonen onlys to the ball gun gamers in the gaming community. You don't like anime that doesn't have a lot of action? Hey, that's fine, because we all have preferences. Just don't make the alternative sound like it's only made and for creep stuff. Like how a COD player would talk down on an RPG. I also do think a lot of these kinds of fans only care about fight scenes, and don't really care too much about the story. Because up until the Revolte arc, Freerun Season 2 has been called boring, a snooze fest, you name it, non-stop. But the second the Snake Demon starts fighting, it's regarded as peak. Which is another thing, anime is only regarded as peak if it has an amazing 10 out of 10 fight scene in the episode. I just hate that it's starting to become the standard, and that anything else is going to be looked at as boring or lesser and just not worth your time. But those are just my thoughts. Let me know what y'all think. What's up, y'all? And after Chainsaw Man ended the other week, I couldn't stop thinking about the questions that never got answered in the ending. But I think I found the answer to the biggest one. What devil was Pochita? The answer makes me feel dumb for not piecing it together sooner, but Pochita is literally the Chainsaw Man devil, not simply just Chainsaw Devil. Think, because in this timeline, Chainsaw still exists, so it can't be that devil specifically. And it can't be the Erasure Devil, because then that creates a paradox. And since any devil that has been erased affects the physical world too, it can't be a metaphysical concept like the Memory Devil, because memories are still being formed. Couple that with the fact that devils are created by humanity's collective fears, and new ones can be created based on what the mass of people is scared of at the time. And only humans refer to Denji and Pochita as just the Chainsaw Devil. Everyone else normally refers to the two as Chainsaw Man. So now that we have Pochita's actual identity revealed, there's just one question. Who exactly was the original Chainsaw Man? I have one theory about that. Chainsaw Man was a normal human who was able to kill a bunch of devils with, you guessed it, a chainsaw. Killing so many that Chainsaw Man was eventually born in hell as a devil. The only difference is instead of being born from humanity's fear, it came from devils. Considering that there was a literal Nazi devil, it seems that devils can be based off of people or a specific person if the fear is big enough. The erasing power could just be an indirect part of that fear. Let's say it was done by devils that any devil that fought Chainsaw Man would get sawed up until they looked like they were nothing, and then that subconsciously turned into a fear of being erased. Also, as funny as this panel is, this could theoretically be a time loop, and Chainsaw Man could just be reborn again if Denji fights with a chainsaw consistently. Remember that America recreated nukes, even though the nuclear weapons devil was erased at that point in the story, and Pochita didn't puke it out. So physical concepts can be remade from scratch, and a man with a chainsaw shouldn't be that hard to recreate. So weirdly enough, the series could theoretically be a time loop where Chainsaw Man is always reborn. But that's just my theory. What do y'all think?